Hi everyone, Mrs. Newmeyer here, and we are doing our hands-on science week number 6. Now, you just saw me spin around in my chair, which goes with our first experiment today, is we're going to be talking about why do we feel dizzy when we spin. Have you ever thought about that? Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to be working on number 79 in our Janice VanCleave for our first experiment, first of 3. And I want you to think about that. Now, have you ever been on a roller coaster before, or spun around in your yard, around and around, or gone on a merry-go-round? Why do you think you get dizzy when you do that? Well, let's explore that today. Go ahead and think through some of your questions you have about that, and that will be our research question. Then we'll come up with our hypothesis after we've done some research. For our research today, I'm going to be looking back at this book we referred to a couple of times in our science experiment so far. And we're going to be looking at the ear. Remember this we looked at before last week when we talked about sound and vibrations? Now we're going to be looking at this part of the ear, these canals. And inside of these canals, if you can see this, there are tiny little hairs. And this one's even better here. See, there's little hairs, sensory hairs, that are connected to some nerves in the brain. And in here is some fluid. So what do you think happens to this fluid when we spin? And does that have anything to do with our experiment? It sure does. Let me show you something here. But first, let's come up with our hypothesis. I think my hypothesis is going to be that when I spin, I feel dizzy. What about you? All right, come up with your hypothesis, and then I want to show you something. Now, imagine this is that part in your ear we were just looking at, that canal. And as you saw, there was some water in it, right? Now what happens when I spin this jar? I'm going to spin it. Now you can see the water is also spinning. And watch what happens when I stop. The water still continued to spin even after I stopped spinning the water. Watch this, we'll do it again. Okay, now I'm going to stop. You see, all right, it still went for a little while longer after I spun the water. Now, imagine I was to do this more and more and more and more and more and more. It would stay spinning longer once I stopped, right? Well, let's look back at our picture again inside the ear. When we spin, these little hairs are moved by the water or the fluid inside the canal there. And the direction of flow sends messages to our brain. But can you imagine what happens after we stop? Does the water immediately, or the liquid immediately stop like the water did in my jar? Or does it keep going like the water did in my jar? The water in my jar kept going, didn't it? And it's just like that in our ears. So what I want you to do for our experiment today is to go outside, or if you're inside, make sure there's enough room around you, and turn around 5 times and see whether you get dizzy or not. Okay, ready? Go give it a try. Make sure when you're spinning, you spin around 5 times really fast and sit down, because you want to stop, right? You want to stop that water as quickly as possible, that fluid inside of your ears. What happened? Were you dizzy afterwards? I was. When I stopped the fluid inside my ears, it obviously kept going because those hairs were sensing something and sending signals to my brain that I was still moving. And that's what happens when we are feeling that sensation of dizziness. It's our brain interpreting that we're actually still moving because it hasn't, the fluid hasn't settled in our ears yet to give us the signal that we've actually stopped moving. Pretty cool, huh? For our next experiment today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be doing number 80, changes of pattern, and we're going to be testing our power of concentration. So our question has to do with, can we concentrate on more than one thing? Can we concentrate on two things at the same time? My hypothesis is going to be, yeah, I think we can. So let's give it a try. Let's do some research first. Now, in our bodies, we have things that are called nerves. And the nerves send signals up to our brain, and our brain sends signals back to our body to give instructions on what our body can do. In this experiment, we're going to be testing our ability to have our brain learn something and then quickly try to do it differently. So what you're going to need is either a partner, or you can try this on your own. So what you're going to start by doing is patting your head. So pat your head. You can just do it nice and slow, nice and soft. Be gentle with yourself. And then rub your belly at the same time. See if you can do both. Whoops, I almost started patting both. All right, so you rub your belly, pat your head at the same time. Okay, keep going. Can you do it? All right, now try something different. All right, patting your head, rubbing your belly. Now try to switch. Try rubbing your head and patting your belly, and I can't. I keep wanting to rub my belly and rub my head. If I concentrate on trying to rub my head, I can't get myself to rub my belly. What about you? Can you do it? Keep trying. Try it a few times. How'd you do? I tell you what, I had a hard time getting my brain to switch. Now, I was able to keep it going for a number of times. I could pat my head and rub my belly at the same time and keep it going for quite a amount. I could even start to once I changed it, I could start to rub my head, but I just had a really hard time getting my hand to also switch, to start patting my belly instead of rubbing it. So what does this tell us? What are our conclusions? What conclusions can we draw from this? Well, the messages that get sent to our brain are really good at concentrating on one thing. But then when we try to switch it up, it does take some really intense concentration to be able to do the new thing, or to do it differently, or to do the two different things at the same time. Our brains are amazingly made and complex, and it's so interesting when we try to fool it like that. It's kind of fun. There's some tricks we can do with our own body. Now for our third and final experiment for today. We're going to be looking at number 78, how do you feel? All right, the purpose of this experiment is we're going to test the sensitivity of our skin. So our questions could be things like, do different parts of my body feel differently? Do they have different receptors? Do I feel things differently on one part of my body versus another part of the body? My hypothesis is going to be yes. Because if we do our research, remember when we looked at our skin, and here's our skin picture that we looked at before. Now you'll see here there's some receptors here, and how we were just talking about nerves and how nerves send signals to our brain. Well, some of these receptors are different in different parts of the body. So let's test this. For this experiment, you'll need two very sharp pencils, and you'll want to tape them together so that the points are exactly at the same place. So get your piece of tape, tape them around your pencil, and you're ready to do the experiment. Okay, you want to do this one with a partner. It can be a friend or your sibling or a parent or a tutor. And you're going to have your partner, your helper, take a seat and hold out their arm. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your pencil and start on the arm, but you're going to have them look away. So have them look away like this, and you're going to gently take this and touch the pencils to their forearm. Just really lightly. You don't have to do it very hard. Okay. Next, you're going to take it and you're going to do it on their thumb. And do the same thing. The partner will be looking away and have touch the thumb, or you can do it on any of the fingers, with both of the tips of the pencil. Now you're going to ask them, did they feel one tip or two? Now when you do it on the forearm, say, how many pencil tips do you feel? Okay. You can try it on yourself too if you want to. And then on the finger, how many do you feel? 1 or 2? All right, do the experiment and we'll talk about the results. Right, what were your conclusions? For me, when I felt it here, let me ask, what did you feel? Did you feel 1 tip or 2? Okay. What about on your finger? Did you feel 1 tip or 2? For me, I was able to only feel 1 here. I couldn't quite tell that there was 2. But when it moved to my fingers, I could feel that there were 2 for sure. I felt both tips. And why do you think that is? Let's analyze our results and come up with our conclusion. Now, you remember in the picture where we have those receptors, and those receptors send messages to our brain. In our fingers, we have more receptors than we do in other places in our body, such as our forearm. You can try it with other parts of your body too. Maybe try it on your leg and your toes and the bottom of your foot, and you'll see that different places have more or less of these receptors. And then we're able to, when we have more receptors, we're able to feel the 2 different points because our receptors are closer together because there's so many more of them there. But in a place like your forearm, they're further apart. And so when you do this, they're not close enough to actually determine that there's 2 points. It kind of just feels like maybe there's just 1. Isn't that neat? I love learning about our bodies, and I love all the small intricacies that God has created in our bodies so that we can experience His world and enjoy each other and to discover new things as we go along the way. So continue to experiment, discover, ask questions, and make hypotheses and come up with your results. And sometimes you'll ask more questions after you've tried to answer one of them, right? All right. That's it for our hands-on science for our 6 weeks. Next week, we're going to be doing a new project where we get to learn all about our body and all the different parts of our body. We'll be making a replica of the different parts of our body. We'll see you then. Right. Bye-bye.